council opts into the appointed persons arrangements made by the public sector audit appointments to the appointment of the external auditors. Does any member wish to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Quite often the external auditors get mentioned at this council, quite often the Cabinet they get mentioned. And I think it's very important when we are talking about auditors, auditors are only checking the factual accuracy of books. They're not there to actually inspect the management of the council unless you start doing public value assessments, etc. This council is doing many things, absolutely abhorrent, but actually the accounts are kept very much in order. Our massive debt of almost £80 million is accurately recorded. So the auditors will say, yes, the books are all in place. They don't say it's sensible to have such a large debt. It's sensible to have a £600,000 project at Gresham Road that costs £2 million. Unless the public actually asks for a public interest report, the auditors are actually just checking the books are correct, not that this council is being managed properly. And now I remind members that people like British Home Stores had glowing audit reports just before they went broke.
Yeah, thank you very much. I support the motion to appoint the external auditors, and despite, and I also refer back to page 12 from the last meeting, of the mature and nonsensical demand by Councillor Connicord that the Council should be put into special measures. Again, the external government-appointed auditors continue to recognise this Council as being effective, economic and efficient as usual in their accounting matters. For me, that says everything about this Council. We are efficient, effective. What's the third one?
In their accounting measures.
Thank you very much. And the way we run this Council.
Then move to the vote. So all those members in favour, please show. Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Item 11. Questions on matters requiring decisions by the council are able to be raised subject to the rules of procedure. This management policy and strategy performance management framework council claims and invite you to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the recommendations which were approved by the Audit Committee with a unanimous vote. I move that recommendations 1 to 3 on page 4 of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Is there a seconder?
Yes.
Does any member wish to speak? Councillor Connicord.
Who wants to be a film star?
Councillors, please.
On YouTube.
Councillor Connicord.
Right, we have lots of good documents about risk management and risk registers. Unfortunately, they seem to stay on the shelf. We've just had a depot move that's supposed to have had a £600,000 fit-out cost that's cost £2 million. Where's the risk register? We were told this project was so urgent there was no risk register and no risk analysis done for it. What's the point of having all these very wordy, very fine ideas about managing risk and then just, oh dear, we're running late, let's just approve this depot move, let's just sign up a cheque for £2 million. This council should be taking real notice of risk registers. Risk processing is really important. If you look at industries like airline industries, etc., actually look at what problems could happen ahead, writing them down and taking a strategic view of what might go wrong is really sensible. And for the depot move, if there was an early risk report done for it, if it was all on the risk register, we could actually have a look at what things were starting to go wrong and then look at what mitigations we could take. As a result of having a risk register and proper risk procedures, we may have worked out how to get the cost of the depot, how to change the timing of the move, or whether even the move was still viable, given the fact that we were basing on a whole pack of misinformation. So I really do hope we don't just approve these procedures for risk, we actually look at risk properly. We have a risk register presented to the scrutiny committees about 3 or 4 times a year. It is full of risks, town centre redevelopment, all this stuff. Really good to have a risk register, it's just we never ever do anything with it.
I have no other member indication, I'm going to move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Move on to B, General Fund and Highland Revenue Report 42. Councillor Harvey, can you move the recommendation to the Cabinet, please?
I'll move the recommendation, Madam Mayor. We're very proud of the way the officers and members, both of these accounts have been managed and will be managed in the next 12 months.
Seconder?
Yes.
Okay. Any member wishing to speak? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting the use of words which the Leader of the Council has just used, that he is proud to move the report in front of us because it shows the excellent decisions made by this Council. I'm afraid page 72 speaks volumes and speaks a lot more clearer to us than apparently the Leader of the Council will admit to. If we look at planning at car parking metered income, £227,000 forecast down. Until I see anything else in black and white from the officers, I'm not going to budge on that. But it is something which we warned about. It is something which residents are consistently warning about. It is something which shopkeepers and stallholders and business managers in the town centres keep warning about, yet persistently this council refuses to listen. It tries to pride itself as being a listening council, yet they seem to be stopping the deaf when it comes to the business communities, which actually know better than this council. I cannot help but remember the managing director of Road Walk being sat up in the gallery right over there, offering to work with us to actually come up with a better pricing strategy to actually keep residents in the town centres shopping, to entice them in and actually increase revenue. What answer did we get from the Leader of the Council? Silence. That silence is rather damning. When it comes to car parking season ticket income, again, we're down on that. And when it looks at market stall rental income, we are down £40,000 on that one, yet again. Again, we warned that this was putting our markets in danger. And one of the critical things for me was when I was on the OSP for the economic a couple of weeks ago, the statistics which are coming back from officers are shocking. We are 70,000 tickets less this year compared to last year. Now, I can accept a bit of to and fro from the post-6 o'clock night-time economy, which was a good move. We supported that at the time, but we said the risks and the costs did not outweigh the benefits when it came to the package which was put forward. So I would urge the Leader, again, publicly, to take up that offer which was given to us, for effectively free consultancy to work to actually improve the town centres, rather than taxing, effectively putting a tax on our shoppers to use our town centres. It isn't fair, it isn't sustainable, and if we're not careful, it will see our town centres continue to deteriorate, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from that point, still on page 72 in the car parking revenue, you'll see in the approved budget we expected to receive £2.169 million of car parking income. Over £2 million, yeah, £2.2 million of car parking income. And what we received in previous years was around £2 million of income. We put the prices up and the income actually went down. We are forecasting £1.94 million of income. So we've lost £200,000 we thought we'd gain. But importantly, the market traders and the shops are losing customers. We have got the remarkable situation of a leader of a green group actually opposing the level of car parking charges. I do not want people to drive more than they need to. What I want people to do, if they do need to drive, is to drive to Nuneaton rather than Hinkley. Hinkley is having a marvellous time at the moment, at the cost of our incompetence. You talk about the road walk being full. One of the factors that happens when things are overpriced is less people come. And And so your prime sites, your road walks, still stay fairly full. What happens is the outlying sites become more and more empty. And we've seen this in the parking figures. There's been an almighty fall in parking at places like the Co-op car park before the Co-op closed. Yeah, we have a serious problem here. And the second point in these accounts, or budgets I should say, is going to the capital programme on page 78. We're supposed to have a £9.7 million capital project. We've now got £12 million in Appendix C. We are spending money like it's going out of fashion at a time when we have horrendous levels of debt at this council. Yeah, you look down all the things, £2 million on the depot, £407,000 on the Bedworth Cricket Club. There is no project that is running to budget, and our capital project is, many worthy projects on here, but they need to be better managed. We cannot rake up £12 million of capital expenditure at this time.
Councillor Phillips.
Just a couple of things. Firstly, it's been said many times tonight about the car parking, but we haven't had a full year yet. We're not comparing like for like. I think we ought to just hang fire and have a full year's comparison. As far as the outlying car parks go, well, Meadowcourt was made as a free car park, so that's, you've got to take that into account. And the depot, I know the depot was run over, but you've got to look at long-term savings. The new depot is an invest to save type of thing, so long-term it's going to save us money, and it's also going to save journey times, fuel costs, and carbon emissions, because the journeys for the wagons are going to be shorter. So for me, if it costs a bit more, but we're going to save on pollution, which we've discussed earlier today, then so be it. And also, we can't stay at St Mary's, that's not an option, we have to move. So let's just get on with it.
I'll get through this without coughing or something. I've got a couple of points to ask for some clarification on. Page 17 is discussing business rates. Right, yeah, page 70 is discussing business rates, but when we're not actually a very business-friendly borough, how are we actually going to generate business rates when we become self-funding? I have a query about the market stall rental income being down £40,000. You mentioned that there are 13 lockups in Bedworth that are being rented out at a reduced rate. Are you saying that 13 lockups in Bedworth are actually responsible for a £40,000 drop in market rental income, or is it because it's actually shrinking? Because when you walk around the town now, the market's nowhere near as big as it used to be. Excuse me. And also on page 78, town centre improvements, well, you've already been asked to qualify what the £200,000 has been spent on, but obviously you've dodged that one. And on the housing and general fund, HART, aids and adaptations to private sector dwellings, 1.344 million. I believe this is actually passed directly to you by Warwickshire County Council in its entirety, so that comes straight into the borough direct from Warwickshire County Council, and you keep saying that they're not giving you any money, but clearly they are, because it's 1.344 million. Can you just qualify that and say, yeah, whether it does come from work or not? Then
I'm getting a bit weary of these constant banging on about car parking charges. Let's put a social context, shall we? Someone used choose to come to the town centre and use the car park 3 times a week, say, and they stop for 2 hours, that's an increase of 90p. And the way everybody over there is talking, all these other places, Hinkley and Bosworth and everywhere else, are so perfect. I don't know why you don't move there half the time, because you think the area is so good, you ought to take up, move and go. The issue is not the 90p for most people. The issue is, and this one you want to avoid all the time, is the government's hitting everybody in this country, particularly the poorer people, who don't have the wherewithal to go and do it. And if you're so brilliant about how our town centres should be, where are the proposals? Where are the amendments? Nothing. 5 years. I don't know how long you've been banging on about the car park, it seems for centuries. Not one idea comes forward from across there, not one. And yet you keep saying that we're letting it run down, we're killing the town centre, we're doing this and we're doing that. It's not logical, it's not workable.
Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Longden is well aware, we put forward a shadow budget which had our proposals in, and there will be a shadow budget coming again, which will again have our proposals in. So what he has said is factually accurate. We have put forward proposals.
The budget proposal is a budget proposal. This goes on 12 months of the year, and yet you never put another proposal to this council, you never put any amendments to anything that comes forward. You do it once a year and that's it. You're exempt for the rest of the time, are you? You don't have to participate anymore. That's good. Don't participate. That's what I want this year.
On the town centres, I'd like to make a point of personal explanation. We've asked several times now what the £200,000 to be spent, and I'd love to make an amendment. No, I'd love to...
Councillor Welby, it's
I
not,
would-
it's not.
It is.
Councillor Welby, it's not a point of personal explanation.
I'm trying to explain why I've not made any amendments, and it's because I don't know what to amend.
Councillor Welby, please, it wasn't a point of personal explanation. If you're unsure of what it constitutes, then personal explanation, you speak to the Borough solicitor on that thing. Councillor Hancock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You and other members in the chamber will probably guess what I'm going to say now. And I don't intend really to be parochial, but I will say it again, I am sick to the teeth of people over this side of the chamber constantly referring to the town. They only talk about Nuneaton. I have to say, there's been a couple of mentions about the manager of Road Walk. I'm sorry, he's probably got the best intentions at heart, but his heart's in the road walking. He probably hasn't got much interest in Bedworth Town Centre. So they don't show a lot of interest in Bedworth, Madam Mayor.
That's an explanation, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, they don't show a lot of interest in Bedworth, hence why they've only just got one councillor back, so that they've got one councillor in place. And despite Councillor Grant, now he's jumped up, seeking credit for a Christmas tree in Bedworth, he doesn't seem to know Bedworth very well, the leader will say if he reacted to Councillor Grant or not. Madam Mayor, to move on to Councillor Condacourt, yet again, no mention of Bedworth. He doesn't really know where it is. Perhaps I'd sat nav on his bike to find him to the event last week. But the only time he mentioned Bedworth in his rant was to try and prevent an improvement to Bedworth Cricket Club Pavilion. Bedworth Cricket Club, Madam Mayor, again, I've tried to explain to him before, is formed of members, not just from Bedworth, but throughout about it, he just will not be educated about that side of the borough. And it's about time he came up front about it and said he only cares about the league, because it's clear that's what he does.
Point the first explanation.
Councillor,
If I haven't been had a go at it,
Councillor Buckle, it's not personal information from yourself, I've been informed that by the legal officer. Councillor Wilson, you did raise.
sorry, he's talking about what I said.
Councillor, please, I
He,
did say at the beginning of the meeting, the respect the public has shown, I'm getting a little concerned with the respect the members of this chamber have shown from both sides. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hancock has just said that I am only focusing on Nuneaton. He talks about an education. I actually said town centres, which is plural. I'm sure the teachers on the other side of the chamber can explain to him what a plurality is. That implies Nuneaton and Bedworth when I say town centres.
I'm going to move to the vote.
Madam Mayor, I have a right to reply.
You've got a right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I think it's essential to give a right to reply because there are certain things claimed this evening. First of all, Councillor Kondarker, who assures us he's the leader of the Green Party, he does look at the Conservatives for support quite a lot, so I thought there was perhaps a little coalition going on, but it apparently isn't. He's spending, he always says we're spending money like it's going out of fashion. I actually thought the Greens believed in social progress, which is what this borough is about. I must be wrong. Then we heard it's not a very business-friendly borough. Well, it's very strange that Alan Franks and I had a meeting this week with the Warwickshire Federation of Small Businesses and the officials and leaders of that, who stated that this borough council doesn't shout loud enough about the achievements it has and about how well we are doing in relation to other councils. But we will circulate some of those schemes, as we do to businesses, around the councillors, and perhaps some of the comments, and also the awards we have won year after year from the Federation of Small Businesses. And none of them were not for being not a very business-friendly borough, I can assure you of that. Then, Councillor Golby says, we are getting money from Warwickshire County Council for something they are responsible for. They are the Social Services Authority. They are responsible for adaptations. The money is passed through this council, as it is in other districts, because of the way the council works with housing, and this council, in fact, is working with other councils. It's a leader in that sense, Madam Mayor. But they are responsible for that. It's one of their services. We're not running the schools either, Madam Mayor, just for information over there. The Conservatives are so interested in the town centres. Their first act in 2008 was to make the two town centre wardens redundant. Yeah. In fact, one of their members had the cheek to go up to one man as he was outside on duty in his uniform and said, the first thing we're doing to you, mate, is getting rid of you, mate. Throwing this person into fear for his job. Well, of course, he did lose his job. Then they closed the town centre public toilets in the parks, in our town centres, meaning pressure on other public toilets, in particular a situation. Then they actually have the cheek to ask Sainsbury's to let the public go in their toilet instead. So that's what they care about the town centres. We are very keen on working with the town centres. Madam Mayor, when Councillor Hancock says it's about a town, we've got two towns and one large village with Bulkington. I was in Bulkington today for the dentist. What a successful little village Bulkington is. What a successful town Bedworth is. In fact, the Federation of Small Businesses said they didn't want to take up more than a couple of minutes on Bedworth because it was doing so well. So don't start saying this council does nothing. Look at similar sized towns. Go to some of your conservative road towns around Warwickshire, Madam Mayor. Go to Rugby to look how big the market is. You might need opera glasses to see it. Go to some of the other areas and look what's happened to their market where they've been pushed out. Compare like with like, and you will find that you have a job to find a market that is as good as Nuneaton or as good as Bedworth, Madam Mayor. So
is we need to spend that money wisely, because our level of debt, as shown on page 92, is absolutely massive. You see our debt holdings there will be £83 million. And particularly worrying in our Treasury management is if you look at the maturity profile of our debt in section 9.3 on page 92, you'll see we have to repay £48 million of debt in the period between 5 and 10 years. So at the moment, yeah, we have to pay £2.5 million debt in the next 12 months. We have to pay £2 million the year after that. But then we're starting into serious debt repayment. And this is why it is important the council manages projects well. It is not the case I do not want the depot moved. It is not the case I don't want to support sports pavilions. It's a case we need to do these things efficiently, because the levels of debt are becoming a serious danger to this council. £48 million of debt to be repaid. Some years we have to repay £8.5 or £9.5 million in 1 year. And we'll finance part of that by taking out new debts. But new debts aren't free. We don't know what the interest rates will be in 7 years' time, when we have to refinance some of the housing debts. So it's very important that this council gets more efficient. I'm a radical left-winger. I want good social services. I want people to be looked after. And we do that by managing the council efficiently and not wasting £2 million in depot being fit out that might have cost £1.5 million if we'd done it more efficiently. And one of the problems we've got in our housing stock and our housing revenue account is this debt mounting. Almost all this debt in this Treasury Management Report is held by the housing revenue account. And we have £2 million of interest rate payments to pay every year. Now that is what's undermining our ability to subsidise housing. The way we manage our debt, not just the fact we've got less income.
Well, Madam Mayor, I do apologise for laughing and I'm speaking for our group as well, because but if Councillor Condico will insist upon telling jokes, well, you know, sometimes it's particularly perhaps because it's Christmas. But, Madam Mayor, we've had to buy the council houses 3 times over. Where was Councillor Condico when that happened? When we were forced to purchase our own council houses from the government, get into all this massive debt, and now they tell us they're not ours anyway, they're going to do it all over again. In any other walk of life, Madam Mayor, it's called theft. And the people who brought it about would be sent to prison. Unfortunately, cabinet members are, you know, they're devoid of that, they can do what they like. But we're the ones who are having to pick it up, and that's why the housing debt is so massive. Having to buy houses that were bought and paid for long ago, having to buy them again, and then buy them again 3 times over, Madam Mayor. It's absolutely appalling, and the people who put this forward should be in prison, not in Parliament.
Move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Against? Carried. Item D, the tax support scheme. Councillor Harvey, can you move the recommendation?
I move the recommendation, Madam Mayor. It is with a slightly heavy heart, because we never wanted this in the first place, but we think in actual fact that our scheme has done very well in relation to helping the people that we want to help, unlike the government who made us go down this road.
Is there a seconder?
Seconded.
Any member wish to speak? Councillor Condico?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very interesting consultation. It seems we're talking about the local council tax support that supports thousands of people in our housing stock to actually afford to subsidise part of their council tax. And in Nuneaton and Bedworth, people with limited means still have to pay a minimum of 20% of their council tax if they're of working age. This is particularly harsh compared to some of the other councils, which I know get a better deal from government. But what is also interesting is, of those many thousands of people who take part and are supported by our council tax support, only one of them responded to our consultation. So of the 12 or so people, 13 who responded to this consultation, only one actually got the support. So it was a pretty lousy consultation not to ask the people who get the support. And we should be giving as much support as we can, because local council tax support is funded from the collection fund. This means if we help people with £10 worth of council tax support, it actually costs this council £1.30. Councillor Harvey keeps on about we only take 13% of the council tax. But the way that works with the support scheme is we only pay for 13% of the support scheme. Which means if we help someone with £1.30 of either the hardship fund or council tax support, the other 9.87 get supported by the county council and the police precinct. So we should actually be trying to help people as much as possible, because it keeps as much money in this borough as possible. So if the local council tax support minimum payment in Stratford is 0 and is 20% in Nuneaton, we're actually helping out through our council taxes here the poor people in Stratford upon Avon. Now, we actually should be having the same level of local council tax support minimum payment across Warwickshire. At the moment, this is a minimum payment, is effectively a tax on the poor. It's a dreadful scheme. Yeah, I totally hate the way the government's attacking the poor, but the way the council operates it makes that scheme worse.
Well, Madam Mayor, I think anybody who wants to complain about the scheme ought to go and be complaining at the offices of the 3 local MPs who represent part of this borough, because they voted for this dreadful treatment of the poor.
Moving to the vote, all those in favour, please show. Against? Carried. We want to item E, review the Parliamentary Constituency in England. Councillor Harvey, can I invite you to move the recommendations from Cabinet?
Well, the recommendation from Cabinet is to Madam Mayor is to go back to Nuneaton and Bedworth MP. None of our MPs actually represent Nuneaton or Bedworth at the moment. They represent other areas as well. For instance, the one that says Nuneaton goes as far, I think, as, where do I go to Carboot? Furnace End, right over there. I'm talking about the present one. The one at North Warwickshire goes to places I've never heard of. All due respect to North Warwickshire, but places I've never heard of, right in the middle of nowhere, in the very north of North Warwickshire. And the Rugby MP seems to forget that he represents Bookington, because he's so based in rugby. This scheme will do no improvement to that whatsoever, Madam Mayor, that's being put forward. What it's designed to do is add lots of Tory country people onto the town. And by adding people onto Nuneaton or to Bedworth, to gerrymander more Tory MPs. That's what it's about. It's not about representing the urban areas like Nuneaton and Bedworth. We're putting this forward, Madam Mayor. We're almost certain that nobody will take any notice anymore, because Theresa May isn't even interested in consulting Parliament on Brexit.
Is there a second of that motion?
Seconded.
Does any member wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, we've just had one heck of a diatribe from the leader of the council. He criticises the rugby MP for never visiting Bookington, when the current Labour councillor for Bookington lives in Hull and fails to get a single meeting, except for 7 hours before the legal deadline for being disqualified. So that is hypocrisy in the extreme.
Councillor Wilson, please don't get into insults about members of this council.
Madam Mayor, it isn't an insult when it's a
No,
fact.
please don't. We're debating the boundary changes.
We are. Well, will you pull up the leader for insulting another MP?
If I'm being insulted, then I will.
The MP isn't a member of this council.
So,
It's still an
can
insult, Madam
we
Mayor.
continue?
Well, the leader talks about having a single MP and gerrymandering. The only gerrymandering I'm seeing here is from the leader of the council and the other members opposite. talks about having Nuneaton and Bedworth under one MP. Well, if I understand their proposals correctly, you're still on about shoving Bulkington into Rugby, Whitestone into Rugby. Yes, you are. That is what the Labour proposal going to...
Please.
That is what the official Labour Party proposal is. To shift Whitestone into Rugby. You want to divorce Exall...
An explanation, Madam Mayor. I'm proposing the Cabinet's recommendation, not the Labour Party recommendation. The Cabinet's recommendation is one MP for the Borough of Nuneaton and Bedworth.
Well, we finally found an issue on which he disagrees with his own party for a change. It's nice to hear that there are lots as well, but perhaps he'll disclose those at another time.
Carry on with the ban.
I am, Madam Mayor. The legal basis is that we are to have an equal representative number of votes in each constituency. What the leader is proposing is effectively making my vote, his vote, and more importantly the residents' votes less important because it takes more votes to get an MP under your proposals, Madam Mayor. That is not equality. That is not one man, one vote, or one woman, one vote. That is essentially trying to create a Labour seat out of Nuneaton and Bedworth. That is, in my definition, gerrymandering.
Oh dear, dear, dear.
Well, Councillor Tandy might not like it, but in my experience, Labour politicians opposite don't very much like the truth.
Councillors, before we go any further, can I ask for a little bit of respect in this chamber, because I am getting a little bit tired of the comments from both sides. So, if you can finish what you're saying, Councillor Wilson.
I will if I can get into stride, Madam Mayor. The parliamentary proposals, by law, are supposed to be between 70 and 75,000. Although, to be quite honest, there is no point in us even having this debate because the deadline has already been and gone. It was the 5th of December. I feel compelled to put on record, Madam Mayor, that what the leader of the council is asking us to do is technically illegal. There are no legal exceptions apart from the Isle of Wight, which has its own geographical nature, and also some of the outer islands in Scotland, which by their very geographical definition make them unique. The representation which is being proposed by the Boundary Commission is far more sensible, far more equal, far fairer, and actually has respect for the current situation. Nuneaton and Bedworth are united to achieve, but we are different towns with different needs and different requirements. And it keeps all of Nuneaton and Bedworth in their individual towns in the respective constituencies of North Warwickshire and Nuneaton. If they had put forward a recommendation to recommend, we support the recommendations of the Boundary Commission with one exception. We want to see North Warwickshire renamed North Warwickshire and Bedworth, which I would fully support and would be in accordance with giving geographical identity and happens in far many other places in the country. That would be acceptable. But I will not accept a motion to gerrymander to suit the Labour Party, Madam Mayor. It is wrong, it is illegal, it is unfair, and it will not get the support of this side, and we will call for a recorded vote to actually show that we will not support such actions.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to declare that I have been and probably will be again the parliamentary candidate for the Green Party in the Nuneaton constituency. I have cycled the vast majority of the Nuneaton constituency. I actually went leafleting out past over Whittaker with some beautiful villages and hamlets that only contain about 8 houses. And it's wonderful to get down and see the area. And I also cycle out often around Binley Woods, through Bedworth, without sat-nav. And I cycle right up to the top end of North Warwickshire. Beautiful areas. And I think, firstly, the leader of the council maybe should get on his bike and explore a bit more of the area and find out some of these wonderful places. But the fact that he hasn't been there is nothing to do with what we're doing selecting MPs. And all these different systems, first past the post, inherently has to draw lines. And inherently, depending on who draws the lines, can gerrymander them or whatever you call it, in many, many different ways. Fundamentally, I do not get on well with Tories. Yeah? But I will speak to our Tory MPs, and having 2 Tory MPs for Nuneaton and Bedworth, and an additional one for the bit of Bulkington, does give us more say in things like the battle over the hospitals. We need actually to talk to each other, actually not have this tribalness, and actually be constructive over saving services at George Eliot. Not all this scare story about everything going, or scare stories that nothing's going. We need to be grown-up politicians, and that happens best if we have more MPs. Ideally, we should have MPs selected by proportional representation, so that we get a cross-section of MPs. It may not mean we get a Green MP in Warwickshire, but it will mean we don't get 6 Labour or 6 Tories, and Coventry won't have 6 Labour. We do need a better speed. We do need a better voting system, so areas don't just get 1 MP over a large area. And whichever side you draw the lines, first past the post doesn't work. Big constituencies with first past the post have massive problems with gerrymandering, and Labour's suggestion of having 1 massive constituency makes the battle to save things like the Georgia far harder. We actually need as many MPs as we get, so you get a cross-section, and we need to treat our MPs with respect, even if we massively disagree with what they're doing nationally, so that they can be a champion on local issues. And I am pleased to say, even though they are Tories, that both our MPs do actually talk to me, unlike the leader of this council.
Perhaps someone needs to remind Councillor Condé-Court when he talks about we want more MPs, that we're actually talking about 50 less MPs across the country, not more MPs. And I wonder if the Conservative members have actually been out into the wilds of Rugby and asked the people of Rugby how they feel about being in the Nuneaton constituency. I can go back quite a few years, and I can remember when we had a Labour MP who did represent that area of Rugby, and they didn't like it one little bit that they were associated with Nuneaton. So have you been out and asked those people in Rugby how they feel about being in Nuneaton constituency? And the answer is no. All you've done is ask your Conservative colleagues if they agree, and you know that they will. And please, please don't anyone talk to me about gerrymandering.
I'll be very, very quick. I mean, I've got to be quite honest, it doesn't matter what we're saying there, because decisions will be made by what we make on the government at the end of the day. I know they say it's the Boundary Commission, but it'll be the government that will gerrymander it, they use the word. I very nearly agreed with Councillor. Very nearly, I didn't quite. When he talks about larger constituencies, undervalue the votes, because the more MPs you've got, the more chance of getting your views across you've got. Oh, that's rich, when it was just been said they're cutting them by 50 across the country. Will it make a difference whether you have North Warwickshire continue, Nuneaton continue, or a Nuneaton and Bedworth or constituency, Nuneaton, Bedworth and Bulkington on the borough boundaries? I think it will make a difference if you have Nuneaton, Bedworth and Bulkington. But would it make a difference to the political makeup? I don't think so. I don't think it will make one iota of a difference. At the end of the day, you know, you look at the 2 areas now, they're marginal constituencies for both parties. There'll be a marginal constituency still if it was based on Nuneaton and Bedworth. There won't be no change. People assume that it will follow the makeup of the local political group that controls this council. That's rubbish. We've seen it time and time again. Voters move about, and they do move about nationally. And it won't make any difference. It will still be a marginal constituency for both parties. So I don't see any gerrymandering, as they call it, I see the logical way to go. Why have it any different? Yeah, the numbers are going to be high, but they want to cut seats. If they want to cut seats, then you're going to have constituencies with high numbers across the country. So I don't see a problem whatsoever with it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I suppose whatever the Conservative group and the Conservative MPs say will happen.
Councillor Phillips, Councillor Daly, Councillor Grant, Councillor Harvey to sum up, and then I will be moving through the rest. Councillor Chilcott.
I just personally think it's a shame that we are reducing MPs and that we have got this motion before us, because I see it as an attack on democracy at a time when the population is growing, that we're actually, our representation is in Parliament is being reduced. And as for talking to our Tory MPs that Councillor Condacorn thinks is such a wonderful idea, I think they're extremely naive.
Councillor Daly.
Just talking about the rugby situation with the council candidate, that was a few years ago, and maybe the fact that they didn't like it was because of who was representing the area at the time. No, actually, I'm just saying that maybe they just didn't like the person that was representing them at that time.
They voted for it.
Well,
Sorry.
you clearly stated that they didn't want to be represented like that, so I'm just clarifying the point that possibly it was all about who was representing them at the time and not who represents them or potentially could represent them in the future. It's all to do with cost reduction. What's wrong with actually reducing the number of MPs and therefore the cost of the public purse, because I'm sure you've all made a to-do about expenses at one point or another. And what's wrong with actually minimising that cost to the public purse? If you reduce it by 50 MPs, then actually it's a saving overall to everybody. And also, I do actually think that possibly having 3 MPs does actually go some way to providing more of a bigger voice within Parliament, because you do get the 3 MPs to cover all areas like Councillor Condacorn said. So again, what's wrong with that? Why minimise that voice down to 1?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to address what has been accused of us of gerrymandering. These boundaries are almost identical to the boundaries that were fought in the election since 1983. The Labour Party actually won the North Warwickshire and Nuneaton seats in 1997, 2001 and 2005 under Tony Blair. What this is really about is that the Labour Party don't think they can win North Warwickshire and Nuneaton anymore under Jeremy Corbyn. I attended the hearing on the parliamentary boundaries in Birmingham not too long ago and spoke in favour of having a North Warwickshire and Bedworth seat and having a Nuneaton seat that would include Bolkington. I think that it's a good idea to include Bolkington once again in Nuneaton, as been done before. I mean, it's not like this area is as far away as Hull, so we may as well include it in the Nuneaton constituency. So I am very much in favour of having what the Boundary Commission has proposed, which is very similar to what we've had from 1983 to 2010. And I don't think that going back to what we had in 1971 is very good in general, because that it's just typical of the Labour Party to want to take us back to the 70s. They may as well ask Wes Huckfield to be our MP again if that's what they're wanting to do.
Can I move the vote, Madam Chair?
I've got Councillor Harvey to round up, and then I will be moving to the vote. Councillor Harvey.
Well, first of all, Madam Mayor, it is illegal because it's our opinion. It's not actually making a decision. The Boundary Commission will make a decision and it will go to Parliament for a vote to ratify it. But the point is, we guess who will vote which way in Parliament. Parliament decides at the end. Councillor Golby said, in relation to Councillor Tandy, that perhaps they just didn't like the person. Well, the person who was the MP at that time when the Parliamentary was fought, and I've been to Binley Woods and all these other places, Councillor Condalker, wanted to go. The person was Louis Stevens, MP, Conservative.
No, like
And
candidate.
John Hayes was the Labour candidate in 1983 in Nuneaton. But the point is, it's nothing to do with who won or who lost, because the Conservatives are implying Nuneaton and Bedworth would always be Labour. Well, that says something, doesn't it, about this borough? In how they see this borough, they see it as being Labour. Thank you very much. In relation to what was said about the Isle of Wight, why should the Isle of Wight be special? We're quite happy to do the trench round it if it makes it different, Nuneaton and Bedworth. People here identified, when there was talk of local government reorganisation, some way back, this was the strongest identification within this county. It was with Nuneaton and Bedworth. It had a massive identification with the actual borough of Nuneaton and Bedworth. People knew where they lived, they knew who represented them, and they knew what their towns were about, not joined on with bits all over the place. It isn't illegal, Madam Mayor. In actual fact, the deadline has passed now because it's gone. It had to be there, I believe, by the 5th of December. So, what are you just wasting our time for this evening? You're going to get your way in the end because you've got the MPs in Parliament to make this happen. We know you have. And that's why the Liberals would not let you do it between 2010 and 2015.
Madam Mayor, I will read out the name of each member in alphabetical order. I will then indicate if they are for or against the motion.
Why?
Councillor Aldington apologies. Councillor Beaumont. For. Councillor Bennett.
For.
Councillor Bonner.
Against.
Councillor Brindley.
Against.
Councillor Copland.
For.
Councillor Daffin.
For.
Councillor Doherty.
For.
Councillor Downty. Absent. Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Gizane.
Against.
Councillor Glass.
For.
Councillor Bowlby. Councillor Graham. Councillor Gutteridge. Councillor Hancock's absent. Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Haynes.
For.
Councillor Jackson apologies. Councillor Condalker.
Against.
Councillor Tony Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Ian Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Longden.
For.
Councillor Marbury.
For.
Councillor Caroline Phillips.
For.
Councillor Neil Phillips.
For.
Councillor Gwyn Pomfret.
For.
Councillor Margaret Pomfret. Councillor Joe Shepherd. Councillor Tracy Shepherd. Councillor Tandy. Councillor Troman's apologies. Councillor Watkins. And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Move on to item reorganisation test. The report is from the managing director outlining the reasons for vaccination decision. This item is for information only. However, the managing director has spoken to me, very happy